I think what we should talk about today is seller concessions and our relationship.
All right. Okay. I'll go there.
Fair.
But let's talk about the mortgage stuff first.
No, I want to talk about our relationship first.
I want to talk
Like
about
it's slanted.
I want to talk about concessions for the seller.
I give you concessions every day.
This is what I want to talk about. I agree with you.
I concede that he wants to take my chair.
I want to talk
that
about
he doesn't want to open
concessions
houses.
in the real estate business.
Concede.
You know what it is?
I concede a lot.
You constantly want to change a man. All right, so welcome to the More Than Mortgage podcast.
Hi, Vito. So what are we talking about today?
Today, I think we should talk about seller concessions because the market has changed.
It sure has. And so last year at this time, seller concessions weren't a thing. You couldn't get them.
You literally said those words and you were like kicked out the front door.
But I think to start from the beginning and really kind of make it simple so people can understand, a lot of folks might not understand what is a seller concession and what can we use them for. So let's start there.
All right. So seller concessions to me or contractual obligation on the seller's side to help the buyer buy the home for less money out of pocket.
Right. So if you were to buy a $450,000 home in Lee County, Florida, or any county, Florida, that is, you could potentially ask the seller, now it has to be in the contract, to give a percentage of their purchase price or their sales price towards your closing costs and prepaids, right?
Wait, prepaids? I know what closing costs are, I think, but we'll talk about that. But what are prepaids?
So prepaids are, we just covered this, didn't we, in a different conversation. So prepaids are your taxes and your insurance, the starts of your escrow accounts, and the number of days of interest from the day you close to the end of the next month.
So to be clear, the seller could actually pay the buyer's flood insurance, homeowner's insurance, building a tax and insurance escrow, ultimately reducing the buyer's cash to close at closing.
Yeah. And, we just launched a really neat product, and I don't want to get too far into it today because I think it's deserving of its own podcast called Sold. And Sold helps us help sellers net more on their property by taking the program and utilizing it to open up the pool of potential buyers. So it's really exciting stuff. But the first step is to understand what is a seller concession, right? How do we use them? What can they be used for? So they can't be used for down payment, right?
Right. You can't decrease the minimum required in investment by the buyer. So let's say they're buying a home with 5% down. That's the program. Yeah. They're buying a $400,000 home. That means they need $20,000, right? Mm-hmm. But then on top of that 20, they have closing costs and prepaids.
Right.
Right. So the seller can contractually pay that part.
So if I was a homeowner and a home buyer, and I'm out looking to purchase a home right now, but I only have the money to put down.
Like the minimum required investment.
Requirement. There's hope for me. I can actually utilize seller concessions to help pay the rest of the costs.
Right.
If I find the seller that's willing to participate in seller concessions. And I think it's worth talking about right now because for the past couple of years, it hasn't been a thing.
Right.
And so people don't even, either they've forgotten or they didn't know because it hasn't been like a customary experience. But I've been doing mortgages 25-ish years, I think. I don't want to date myself too much, but 25 years. And
the camera dates you, don't worry.
Listen, middle age.
So real quick though, like if we talk about the time before COVID, right? Seller paid closing costs was on a extremely large percentage of the transactions in Southwest Florida.
Yeah. So I think there's an opportunity here for somebody who might think, hey, I can't afford to buy a house right now because I only have the down payment and I have all these other costs.
Now is the time.
Now's the time. And if you don't have an agent that you're working with that can explain this to you and you need our help, give us a call because we have tons of agents we work with on a daily basis that we can refer you out to and can help get that contract written, right?
Right. So is there Is there a more motivated seller that may offer closing costs? Is this like, do I want to take the hottest property on the market that just got listed and has a line of 10 people showing it?
Yeah, probably not. So it's going to be the properties that are sitting for a little bit longer, your entry-level homes. So it's not every seller. It's not every house.
Right.
So sometimes you have to make a few offers before you find that seller that's willing to participate. But as the market continues to, I wouldn't say decline because I don't think it's declining, but soften.
Yeah.
We're going to see more and more sellers willing to offer these concessions, which is going to help more and more first-time homebuyers get into homes. And the other weird part, or not weird, no, but the other interesting part is it's not just for first-time homebuyers. Second home buyers can also use seller concessions to help. And how about even on an investment property?
Maximum
2%.
2% of the purchase price.
Yeah. But so if you're buying a $400,000 house, an investor can get $8,000 in
closing costs and prepaids
to cover it. Right. So I think it's important to note, and I don't know that we get into all the details. I think somebody can call us if they have questions, but each program has a different maximum.
Right.
So with FHA and VA, it's fixed. So 6% on FHA, 4% on VA, right?
Did you know we can use seller concessions to pay down debt on a VA loan?
Yes.
That's so crazy.
It's crazy. There's so many caveats to the cool things, creative things you can do with this money. And conventional, the more you put down, the more concessions you can get.
Yep.
So really interesting stuff and ways to get creative to get people into homes. And that's what we specialize in, right?
Absolutely.
Helping find those creative ideas to help people get.
And not only that, educating the borrower to show them exactly what their cash to close will be if they get the concessions, educating the real estate agents to put it correct in the contract, right? Yep. So we can use it. And I think it's extremely important as a buyer to kind of put yourself in the seller's shoes to realize, hey, I'm asking for, let's say 3%. 3% is $12,000. So maybe I don't ask for a price reduction and 3%. I ask for just that 3%. Hey, I'll give you full price for this home if you simply just pay my closing costs and prepaids.
And that's something we're going to be talking about more in depth when we start launching the Sold program, because the Sold program teaches sellers how to net more off their property and open up the pool of buyers that are available to purchase their home to people that might not have qualified prior to the Sold program. So more to come on that, but there's a lot of really neat things you can do right now, especially because the sellers are going to be a little more willing to get creative on those contracts. So it's exciting stuff. You know, people are kind of turned off by the high rates in the market, but for a first-time home buyer right now, the market is better than it was 2 years ago.
The market's way better than it was 8 months ago.
Right. But, I mean, so rates are definitely up, but prices are softening. The lines of people trying to make offers have come down. So you have more of an opportunity today to get a house under contract than you did, say, 8 months or a year ago.
If you were on the sidelines because you were discouraged from months ago, now is the time. The sellers have a little fear. The sellers that are selling their homes want to sell the homes. And now is the time to take advantage of that.
Date the rate, marry the property.
Date the rate. So that essentially, what are you saying there? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. You stole it from me a couple months or weeks ago.
So what Deanna is saying is you buy the property you're in love with in the neighborhood you want to live in, but the interest rate is not permanent. Yeah, you might get a 30-year interest rate, but when inflation slows down and the government starts cutting rates, we could do a refinance to give you current market rates.
Well, I think if you look at history, and history says that every time we enter a recessionary period, with the exception of, I believe, twice, rates have actually fallen back, right? Yep. And home prices, interestingly enough, have done what?
Gone up
or stayed the same. They haven't declined. There's only a couple of times in history and the recorded pieces that it's actually worked inversely. Right. So if you got into a home today with a rate that's a little higher than where you want to be, a couple of years from now, you have the opportunity to refinance that. There's also great programs like the 2-1 buy down and the 1-1 buy down. So the temporary buy down options that we also offer to help get you a lower start rate, And then over time it increases, which will carry you to that piece where we're talking about rates probably will come down and you'll have the opportunity to refi.
And then we have the Customer for Life program here at Community Lending. So if you did choose Community Lending for your lender,
we waive all our fees.
On your second, and third, and fourth loan, we waive all of our lender fees so that it makes refinancing easier to do.
Super cool.
Right.
That's a Deanna word. Super cool.
Okay.
Super cool. So thanks, Vito. That was great.
I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me on the More Than Mortgage podcast.
And I think